The crew of the 2nd Self-Propelled Artillery Battery of Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade hid in a bunker under a line of trees. The 8 men were in a cramped, filthy space with only room for 2 bunk beds and 2 tables. One of the soldiers filmed Russian positions with his drone to show British weapons at work on the front. The Times reports, "That was our shot. We fired, and here's the result. Look. It hit the target. There's a bunker in the tree line, and here's another one. It hit the very spot where they're hiding. Good job, guys. Surgical," said the drone operator with the call sign Bear. The publication recalled that in May, the British Army transferred 89 AS-90 self-propelled guns to Ukraine. In particular, the 3rd Assault Brigade received at least 12 units of such equipment, which replaced the Soviet 2S-19 MSTA-S. According to the military, they are happy with this weapon. If the gun is in good condition, if we've checked it and everything is okay, it works very well. It feels like it was designed with the operator in mind, said the crew commander, call sign Skripal. It is noted that the interior of the gun is spacious. Compared to the old Soviet artillery, it is better armored and absorbs the powerful vibrations of the 155mm gun well. The crew also claims that these installations are subject to heavy use, for which they were not designed, resulting in wear and tear. These are good guns. They can shoot 8 times the stated life of the barrel, but after 8,000 rounds, you might hit the target on the 5th shot instead of the 3rd, warned Sergeant Lyon. The Times noted that the 3rd Assault Brigade has been holding back the Russians around the strategic city of Izium in the Kharkiv region for over a year, despite intense enemy attacks. When the enemy starts to attack our infantry, we enter the battle to prevent them from even getting close. I had a situation when about 30 Russians started to gather near the forest belt, preparing to attack our guys, the stormtroopers, but they didn't succeed. We fired a few shells, and that was it. None of them wanted to return. Skripal said. In turn, the use of AS-90 installations by Ukrainian defenders pleased their allies from Great Britain. The UK's AS-90 artillery platforms, which, thanks to their high rate of fire, survivability and good mobility, have become a very effective tool for stopping Russian attacks. The UK's support for Ukraine remains unwavering. This is why we are stepping up the 50-day campaign to arm Ukraine and forcing Putin to the negotiating table, said Luke Pollard, UK Under-Secretary of State for Defence for the Armed Forces. The publication recalled that initially Great Britain intended to send Ukraine only 30 howitzers. However, the Ukrainian military turned out to be so clever that they were given all the installations. The artillery systems developed in the 1990s were reportedly decommissioned by the British Army because they were too old and slow to meet the demands of a modern battlefield. However, they are still proving important in Ukraine and have become a priority target for Russian drones. There was one case when we were hit by a winged drone. It hit close to our firing position. But since we always use camouflage nets and branches, the cumulative charge only slightly scratched the armor, shared Skripal. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have struck at Russian occupiers' bases and railway infrastructure in temporarily occupied Donetsk. This was reported by the head of the Center for the Study of the Occupation, Petra Andriushchenko, on Telegram. Donetsk, Kievsk district, 8 hits on the occupier's base and railway infrastructure, all on target, he notes in the note. He also showed a video showing smoke rising over the city from the hits. As reported by Patriot of Donbass, this morning the Ukrainian armed forces attacked military and logistics facilities in occupied Donetsk. The strike hit the industrial zone in the area of the Zasyadko mine, the report noted, citing local Telegram channels. It also said that occupation army units and equipment were located there. Local channels reported that the attacks were carried out by rockets, which are said to be HIMARS rockets. Recall earlier, during the attack on Donetsk on the night of July the 1st, the headquarters of the 8th Combined Arms Army of the Russian Armed Forces, which is the strategic target for Kiev, was probably hit. Former head of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine, Army General Nikolai Malamuz, noted that the army headquarters is a strategic facility that deploys military operations on virtually the entire Eastern Front. According to him, a group of about 110,000 people is now one of the elements organizing attacks on Pokrovskoe, Kramatorsk, and in general on the Donetsk front. He added that all operations are planned from the positions of his headquarters. Recall, after watching Ukraine, Russia's NATO neighbors are betting big on US-made HIMARS rocket artillery. NATO allies sharing a border with Russia are turning to the US-made high-mobility artillery rocket system as they arm themselves for the possibility of Russian aggression. The HIMARS, made by US defense giant Lockheed Martin, is a multiple rocket launcher. Ukraine has been using it as part of its fight against Russia's invasion. Though a game changer when first introduced, the system's effectiveness has diminished. Still, it's considered a necessary capability by Russia's neighbors. The 3 Baltic countries are concerned that Russia could attack them next, after Ukraine. Boosting their defenses, they have selected the HIMARS as a key weapon. Estonia received 6 HIMARS in April. Latvia has an agreement with the US for 6 of the systems, expected by 2027, and Lithuania is purchasing 8 of them, with the first deliveries expected this year. These countries see the deep strike capability as critical based on watching Ukraine. Hanno Pevkur, Estonia's defense minister, explained to Business Insider that his country believes the combat-tested HIMARS send a deterrence message to Russia. We have the long strike capability, deep strike capability in Estonia already today, he said.